Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Welcome to episode number 322 of the Full-Time FBA Show. Today, we are having a Full-Time FBA 2025 debrief, what this year taught us and why that's important to you. And to talk with us about this is my wife, Rebecca, who is basically, her replan list is more organized than most people's holiday decorations. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks. Oh, goodness. I never know what you're going to say. That was okay.
Okay.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about what we learned in 2025 and why it's important. I mean, you said why it's important to you. Like, it's important to us. There are things about just learning about your business in general that are important to everyone. And that's what we really want you to take away from this episode.
Yeah, we learned some things, and we think others can learn from their own businesses. And we're going to get into that today on the Full-Time FBA Show.
We are so glad you're joining us for this episode today, and we want to make sure you get all the news and information we have at Full-Time FBA. So take a moment now to sign up for the Full-Time FBA newsletter at fulltimefba.com/subscribe. We send out emails every week with the latest Amazon training and news and coupon codes. So don't miss out. Sign up at fulltimefba.com/subscribe.
All right. Raise your hand if 2025 went exactly according to your plans. Don't worry, I can't see if you are raising your hand or not. And if you're driving right now, both hands on the wheel.
Yeah, you don't really have to raise your hand, but I imagine if we were all sitting together in a room right now and we asked you to raise your hand if 2025 went exactly as you planned, not a single person on the planet would be able to raise your hand. I mean, do not get me started on all the crazy things that have happened in our household this year that have affected our business. Anyone remember back in the spring when we mentioned that lightning struck our house and our fireplace exploded?
I remember.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yep, I was there. I mean, it's a perfect example of how life happens. We absolutely need to make plans in our life and in our businesses, and knowing that crazy stuff is always going to happen, but we still need to be prepared as we can for the future for our business. I mean, it's the only way we can be successful.
So for today's episode, we want to have the debrief conversation that every Amazon seller needs to have with themselves or with an Amazon coach or your business partner, but most people just don't take the time to do it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about what worked well in 2025, what didn't go as we had hoped, and maybe a few things that we're looking to do differently next year. And the goal of this conversation isn't to get down on ourselves for failing in certain areas or shaming ourselves for not meeting goals. The goal is clarity. I mean, the only way we can find a clear path of moving forward is if we have clarity on the path that got us here today.
Right. We want our business to be even better next year. So we want to understand what happened this year so that we can make those adjustments and so we can double down on the things that are working well. It's not just about overcoming failure. It's about multiplying our successes. And a lot of business owners and Amazon sellers in particular get in this trap of treating their business like a treadmill or like a hamster on a wheel. You're just running and running and running without ever stopping to look around and evaluate where you are. And sometimes it's because you aren't really anywhere. You're on a treadmill. You're not out running on a path that is taking you somewhere. So the purpose of an end of the year debrief is to pause for a moment on your path, make sure you're actually on a path that is going somewhere, and then proceed with clarity into the coming year.
Now's the time when you get out some paper and take some notes, because I'm going to give you a few questions to ask yourself about how your year went. So hit pause and write these down, and then come back and listen to our discussion of our own year. And if you want to discuss these questions with someone, we have an offer for you at the end of this episode of a Power Hour with me. So keep listening. All right, here are the questions for you. What were your profits like in 2025? Not just your revenue or sales, but your actual profits. I mean, did you profit or not? And then where do those profits come from? Which suppliers? Which Amazon categories? The next thing to look at is, what are your current bottlenecks in your business? Meaning, like, what's slowing you down at this point in your Amazon business? Next, what surprised you in 2025? Maybe surprised you in a good way or surprised you in a bad way. Next, what absolutely did not work for you in your business this year?
We don't want you to end up repeating the same year again and again in some kind of Groundhog's Day situation, especially if 2025 was a rough year for you. We want you to be able to observe, assess, evaluate, and then make progress so that you don't have another year of spinning your wheels in your business and getting nowhere. So, Stephen, now let's get into the details of our own business, shall we?
I guess it's time.
Yep, it's time. Let's talk about what worked for us, what didn't, and what we're looking to change in 2026.
All right, let's start with the good stuff, the wins. So here's a few highlights from our own FBA business this year. First, replens. They were our heroes once again.
Yep, now and always.
Yeah, there's just nothing like being able to go order a winner without having to go do the preliminary search all over again. I mean, those predictable profits and the predictable cash flow, those are game changers.
And along those same lines, our replans kept us going in some of the slower months of the year for our FBA sourcing this year, but our predictable categories also kept us going. This year, our most reliable categories have been grocery, health and beauty, and toys and games. Did you know that, Stephen?
I kind of had a feeling, but that makes sense.
Yeah, honestly, I'm glad I did a quick report for the whole year to see that information because I was surprised that grocery was that high for us. I mean, I knew the other two categories, but not grocery, which just goes to show how important it is to check on those things, to do the reports and have that overall picture of the entire year, because it's just really easy to get focused on the most recent month or quarter and not have a picture of the whole year so that you can plan for those upcoming months as they're approaching again in the next year.
Next, we really have doubled down on implementing systems in our business over the course of this year. And we can tell how it's improved things. I mean, it's improved our profits for sure, but it also has improved like the feel of how the business flows.
And by the feel of how it flows, you mean the bottlenecks aren't there, which means the opportunities for miscommunication and arguments are no longer there.
Yeah, that's always a winner for sure. I mean, we're 13 years into marriage and we're 13 years into working in our business together, and there's still a lot of opportunities to improve communications and the bottlenecks in our business. But specifically, I want to say that there's two areas where we have improved our systems. One for me is our process of systematizing our ungating in brands and ASINs. I mean, we've been following this process for a few years now, but we really tightened up even more this year and have become a lot more methodical about applying for approvals. I mean, we can tell a difference now at the end of the year from where we first started at the beginning of the year. Having that system in place has helped us with having more open doors for inventory to buy at this point. And then in other areas where we've seen improved systems and seen the benefits is basically on your end, Rebecca. And so why don't you tell us about that now?
Yeah, the area that I've been working on the most this year has been OA sourcing, which has been my focus in our Amazon business for 10 years now. But like we all do, I found myself getting lax in certain areas in the past couple of years. So this year, I was intentional about getting back into the basics in my OA sourcing. And I can tell a huge difference when I am intentional about my routine versus just trying to wing it and not prioritize having a plan. So the main areas where I tightened up my process were in blocking out dedicated sourcing time rather than just sourcing when I felt like I had time. Because let's be real, if you don't put something on the calendar and make time for it, it's always easy for it to just slide away. And the other area that I've tightened up is in my sourcing budget and sourcing goals for each week. I had really gotten into some bad habits about not setting and monitoring my spending goals for each disbursement that we get from Amazon. So I worked on intentionally keeping track of that this year, and I'm here to tell you it is so basic, but it works. I saw a big improvement in sales and profits when I got intentional about those weekly and biweekly goals. And I've been talking about that in Momentum FBA for a couple of months now, both in our budgeting focus last month and in the OA focus for this month. So all of that is in the vault for Momentum FBA members.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we've had some pretty substantial wins there.
I agree. And I've been happy with that. And I'm looking forward to doubling down on those things moving forward.
All right, so just for a minute here, let's talk about what didn't work.
Boo.
Okay, I know that's not fun, but it's necessary in this kind of debrief. So you mentioned some of the categories that did well for us. On the flip side, there is some categories that did not do well for us this year. And we see now that it might be time to move on from them. And I hesitate even to mention specific categories right now because there's nothing wrong with them. They just weren't as profitable for us as they have been in the past. And I don't want to say home and kitchen sucked for us this year because I don't want anyone to go out there and think, oh, I'm just going to skip over the home and kitchen. I mean, that would not be a good use of that information.
You don't want to say it, but you just did.
Yeah, I did. I kind of did. Yeah, home and kitchen, it sucked for us this year.
And that's too bad because that's been a really good category for us historically.
Yeah, and I'm going to need to do a little more deeper digging into what's going on there, but maybe that's for another conversation.
So another area that was disappointing for me this year was changes to a couple of my favorite OA retail websites that led me to not be able to source as much from them as I have in years past. And I don't want to get too political here, but I have several websites that I source from regularly that sell products made in Europe or the UK. And it appears that the tariff situation or something to do with the world economy, not completely sure what, it's impacting what they are making available to purchase in the US along with the pricing of it. Mm-hmm. And that's had an impact on my sourcing. It hasn't been something that I haven't been able to overcome or work around completely, but it's been a frustration. And again, I don't want to get into too many details with that or discuss more of my opinions on it. I just want to acknowledge that it's been a frustration because I know there are others who are listening who've had the same frustration. So I feel you.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, next let's go into a few things that we're looking to maybe update or change as we head into Q1 of the new year. And the first thing is taking the information that I've looked at about our top performing categories and making the most of that information. We're going to look at our top 3 to 5 categories from the year, determine which months or quarters of the year those categories were selling well for us, and then plan out our sourcing for the year accordingly. Along with that, we're going to double down on the ASINs, then the categories that had the best margins. We're going to go and look for how we can strategically go deeper in certain ASINs instead of maybe going wider with a higher number of ASINs.
I love that. I would much rather be able to go deeper on one ASIN and get more profits from that narrower range of inventory.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going to continue to refine my sourcing schedule and my spending goals for each week. I don't know if you're aware, but I'm a calendar nerd.
Yep.
I love a planner. I love my digital calendar, but then I also have a written paper planner that I go through and I map out my time on a weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis.
Yeah, you're so into it, you don't even allow me to make a note in.
No,
it's off limits.
You wrote on my planner one time and I was so sad. I was so sad. Don't touch my planner.
Yeah, you did, at least you didn't have to buy a new one.
No, I didn't. I was able to keep using it. But I want to continue to refine my scheduling so that I'm able to get that deep focus on OA sourcing and be able to make strategic decisions about adding new inventory while also making the most of my replens. We did depend a lot on replens this year, which is awesome. I'm so thankful we have them. But the reality is that we also need to continue looking for new replens, and that takes dedicated time and energy on my calendar.
Yeah, and the same goes with me with my schedule. I mean, don't we always start off the new year with grand plans to keep a better schedule each year?
I mean, yeah, we do, but I mean it. No, really, this is something I do on an ongoing basis. It's not a New Year's resolution type thing. We all know that resolutions only last until January 20th or something.
If we're lucky.
Yeah. But this is something I've been already doing at the end of 2025, and it's going to carry over into the new year and only get better from here.
Yeah, and I'll ask you if you can help me do the same.
Of course I will.
Well, good. So, all right, we are closing down here, but I do want to invite you to join me and offer you a chance to do a debrief session, a 2026 strategy plan with me. We have a limited number of Power Hour one-on-one planning sessions available right now, and you can go and schedule a time to talk with me about where your business is heading into 2026. You can book your session with me at fulltimefba.com/strategy at a discounted podcast rate. This is a perfect opportunity for you to have me peek under the hood of your business, see where things are going well, so you can double down in those areas, and then maybe find ways that you can have room for improvement so that we can work on your strategy for success at FBA in the new year. Again, that link to book your session, fulltimefba.com/strategy while the spots are still open.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. As a reminder, any links that we mentioned along with the show notes can be found at fulltimefba.com/322 because this is episode number 322.
So that closes up our 2025 debrief. And so next week on our podcast, we're going to be getting into our 2026 profit plan. Basically, we're going to help you get set up for daily predictable sales in your Amazon business so that you're no longer operating in a feast or famine climate. We'll get into that next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.